Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today we're diving back into the Christmas spirit and I have done an adorable gingerbread cookie tray. It's got tiny polymer clay cookies, it's got a little 3D printed rolling pin, and it's even got a handmade bow that I did on my bow maker. So let's get cozy and crafty and make something super sweet together. So the first thing I did was I made my little gingerbread dough and cut out the little gingerbread men. I did use my 3D printer to print out the little gingerbread. It's the one is the outline and the other one is the imprint, little cookie cutters. And I use my Clayology clay, which is a local manufacturer. They are based in Cape Town. So what I did was I made sure that it looked a little bit like gingerbread. So I used some brown and I mixed some white together just to make it a little bit lighter and rolled it out on my glass sheet, because I always use a glass sheet when I bake my polymer clay because it gives them a nice smooth bottom, so that especially if you're putting them onto a surface, they sit nicely. So here I am just doing the imprint. The imprint outline is the same size as the actual cookie cutter, as you can see at the top right hand side there. So what I did was I just did the imprint first because I didn't want them all cut out of the dough, because I just wanted to have some done and some that were still in the actual dough. So here I am just using the outline cookie cutter to cut them out, and the others I will just leave as inside the actual dough. The tray I'm using I also 3D printed on my 3D printer. It's a white tray and I used some UV resin to seal the top surface. I didn't show cutting out or printing out, I should say, the tray, because I thought that would be a little bit boring. So, but if you want to do one at home, you can always just maybe go to a local shop or something and get a little wooden tray or a perspex tray or something like that. You could use anything, actually. You could even just use a flat plate that you have. I'm sure that there's something that you would be able to use instead of printing out the tray on a 3D printer if you don't have a 3D printer. So basically you can use anything as the tray part, because all we're basically doing is showing the little gingerbread men with their pieces of dough and the cutters. So like I said, you could use anything as your base for this project. What I did was I did a couple of the dough and cutouts because I thought if I'm going to do more of them, at least I'll have some spare so that I don't have to go through the whole thing of rolling out the dough and the clay, and so then I'll have, if I'm going to do another tray. So that's why I have done a few, and obviously I chose the better one. So here they have been in my little miniature oven and they go in for about 30 minutes. This clay is very flexible. It's probably the best clay that I've ever used. I think I've mentioned it before. It takes 30 minutes. Obviously, if your items are thicker, you can leave it in for longer. But I have never had a problem with this clay. It's always stayed nice and flexible, and I've never had cracking or anything like that. So 30 minutes, let them cool down, and they are basically ready to use. So here, like I said, I left some of the imprints in the dough, and then the others are cut out, and those obviously will be separate on the tray, and the dough will be as if I have cut out those little gingerbread men. But how cute are those little gingerbread men? I think they are so sweet. Yeah, so there we go. I had a couple to choose from, and like I said, they came out really nicely and ready to go onto the tray. So the first thing I was going to do was I was going to put on my napkin. Now I got a pretty napkin from a, and there is my tray that I made, and like I said, I did the top section with the UV resin just to make it nice and shiny, and here I was just working out where I was going to put the napkin on to my tray. I wanted some of Santa, but obviously I didn't want the whole of Santa because otherwise he would basically be your focal point. So I just wanted him to be in the corner and then some of the white, so that you would see the little dough and your little gingerbread men. Now this napkin, when you buy them, I just bought a pack of, I think there's 10 or 20 in there, and some of them come with 2 sheets, some of them come with 3-ply, 2-ply or 3-ply. These were only 2-ply, so you separate the sheets and only use the top of the sheets. So what I'm doing here is I'm just spraying it with water on my Teflon sheet because I want to stretch it out so there's no creases in it. I did iron it beforehand, but there were still slight fold creases. So I was just trying to make sure that I got out all the creases before I was going to put it onto the actual tray. It's not a very big tray, but it is just a decoration. So it was big enough for me to be able to decorate with my little dough and my gingerbread men. And I also made my miniature rolling pin and my bow, which I also printed a bow folder, which is actually really sweet. So here I'm just, again, like I said, getting out all the creases as much as I could. It actually works really well. You've just got to be gentle, but the paper doesn't tear that easily. So as long as you're just gentle and wipe away all the creases and the bubbles, it actually does stretch it out and smooth it out really nicely. And the reason we're doing this is so that when you put it onto the tray, you don't have any creases and bubbles. So also don't forget to invert your picture. So the right side of your picture is facing down, because when you flip it over to put it onto the tray, obviously you want the brighter side of the picture. It's hard to tell once it's wet that that is the correct side, but once you do flip it over and it dries again, you can definitely tell the difference between the front and the back. So just always remember to invert the picture. In other words, flip it over so that the front is facing down and the back of it is facing up. So now I am going to seal. You could use Mod Podge, but I'm actually using my polyurethane varnish. It is a water-based varnish, and it does dry really quickly as well. So within an hour or so, you can actually use it. This I'm putting the picture on while it's wet, obviously, because I'm using it as a glue. So I don't have to wait for this to dry before I put the actual napkin on. We call them serviettes or napkins. I'm not sure what everybody else calls them, but I'm saying napkin or serviette. So if I say serviette, please just remember I'm talking about the napkin. So you can use either word. It makes no difference. It means the same thing. So like I said, I'm just putting this on. This is a really nice soft bristled brush. I don't think it makes much difference if you have lines from your paintbrush, because you're putting on the picture anyway. Now this is a little bit of a difficult part because I couldn't really see where to put the napkin over the tray, and I could sort of see the hole at the top, and as I got closer I could sort of see the outline. So I think I actually got it in the perfect position that I wanted it. And then just press it down gently so that it sticks to the, if you used Mod Podge, or like I said, I used the polyurethane varnish, and just spread it out. So again, you're getting some of the creases and air bubbles out if there are any. And then flip it over and gently work the napkin away from the Teflon sheet. And I was actually really impressed how well it came off, and it didn't leave any bubbles or anything like that. Just give it a quick smooth, but you've got to be very careful now because this napkin is wet and you don't want it to break or to tear. So you have to be really, really careful. But it actually is, it's quite hardy, I have to say. Right, so there I was just making sure and just touching. I'm such a fiddler, but like I said there now, right, just leave it now. Just leave it, don't fiddle, and I have to, yeah, there we go. So now we have to leave this now. I left it overnight to dry just to make sure it was right. Now here, unfortunately, that is the emery board or nail file. You can use sandpaper as well, that I used to gently work off the dry napkin from the tray. You work in a downward motion, but unfortunately my camera, I don't know, it just stopped recording. So all you do is you hold the tray and work in a downward motion, brushing the actual emery board or sandpaper down away from you, and it literally just takes the edge, smooths the edge and takes off the excess of the actual napkin. So unfortunately, sorry, I couldn't do it again, so I just had to explain to you what I had done. So here I am now going to put on the pretend flower. So I'm just using a sponge that I'm going to put white craft paint and just dot it around so that it looks like there is flour on the surface of the tray. They're actually really sweet. They've got little wooden handles and they dot on really nicely. So that's just the excess I was taking off, because obviously you don't want big splodges of flour. And I was just going around sort of where I could remember where I had put the pretend dough, or where I'd put the little men on, because obviously I wanted the flour to be underneath where they were lying. So I was just dotting around and getting a nice little spray of flour on the actual surface, just checking that that would be the right size. I didn't want it too small, but also I didn't want it to be too big, because then it also, like I said, is going to take away from the actual design on the napkin. That's my puppy. He wants to go outside and play. So I just want to finish my video here, and then I shall take him out for a play outside. Let me give him a treat in the meantime. So here I was just going over it just to make sure that there was enough of the flour on the tray. Sorry, just closing his treat bowl. And now putting a bit of flour onto the sheet of dough, because obviously that's also got to have a little bit of flour on the edges, just so that you know that it's a rolled out piece of dough. And already it was starting to take shape, I think. Yeah, I didn't want too much white on the little gingerbread men, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see. They'd look more like snowmen. But I do think that they came out really cute with their little facial features and their little dots on them. I thought they were really cute. And now this is the miniature rolling pin that I printed on my 3D printer as well. I just wanted to give it a bit of a paint on the inside of the roller. I wasn't going to paint the outside of, or the handles. I wanted the handles to be nice and shiny. That's how it actually printed on the 3D printer. I used a silk filament, and it really did come out nicely. But I wanted to have solid white so that I could use the polyurethane varnish and put a sticker on, because I just wanted, not that you have a sticker on your rolling pin, but I wanted to just have something on there just to give it a bit of fun. So there is the sticker that I was going to use on the rolling pin. Just to add, I did do 2 coats of polyurethane varnish on the tray once I had done the white flour, because I want to make sure that it was nice and sealed before I started adding all the extras. So I did do 2 coats of the polyurethane varnish, which I didn't film because I'm sure you've watched people putting varnish onto items before. So I didn't bother to film that. But I thought that little sticker was cute. It's also a little Santa, and it says, "'Tis the season and to be jolly." And it's a UV DTF sticker. So they stick really nicely onto, I'm not sure if I mentioned, yes, I think I did. I did a little coat of the polyurethane varnish on the white from the rolling pin as well. So there, I thought that was quite cute on the rolling pin. I saw this design, I think it was on I think it was called Mason Creations, or Mason something. Sorry if anybody knows the name of it. I might actually look it up and just mention it in the description, because I actually saw her doing it, but she used a wooden tray, and but it was the same sort of idea, and I thought it really looked so cute that I would try it with a 3D printed tray rather than going out and buying a wooden tray, because as it is, I did look for some little wooden trays, but none of them were good enough, or none of them were what I was looking for. So I thought, you know what, I'll just do one on my 3D printer. It works out a lot cheaper anyway than buying a wooden tray. So that is why I used mine. But like I said, hers came out really nicely. So I thought I would try and see if I could do one the same. So thank you to, I think it was Mason's, but I will try and have a look and see if I can find it, and I will put it in my description. So if anyone wants to go and have a look at hers, they can find the link to that. So here I was just putting on a little bit of a candy stripe cotton. I did glue. Marshall Maverick, what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, and there I was just putting on the dough and the little cookie gingerbread men. I use super glue, like I said. Sometimes I use my No More Nails, but here I was just using a super glue. The super glue sticks beautifully to the polyurethane varnish, so I was just using that to, sorry about the jiggling of the camera. It's obviously trying to autofocus onto my hand and then onto everything else, so makes your eyes go a bit squiff. So there we go, just sticking on the dough, and then I'll do the little gingerbread men one at a time. This super glue it's actually a nail glue. I think I have mentioned it before. It's actually a nail glue, but it's probably one of the better super glues I've used. I've used all the other gel ones and they're not as good, I've found, as this one. It's actually a really, really good nail glue, but obviously they're all cyanoacrylate. So it does say super strong, and it definitely is super strong. And then there is the little cookie cutter, the one. I didn't put the imprint one. I just put the outer one that I had printed on the 3D printer, and I thought I would just add that as well because you use the cookie cutter when you cut out your little gingerbread man. So I thought that would add to the feature on the tray. Just cleaning up a little bit just in case. And then here I just wanted to put a little bow on. I thought that little rolling pin was just too gorgeous. So it wasn't a very quick project. It did take a few days, but it was so satisfying seeing all the little different items that I had made, because basically I made everything on here other than the napkin and the bow for the rolling pin, the sticker, and the bow that I used ribbon in that. Other than that, everything that's on there are either made with clay or are made on my 3D printer. So it was really satisfying seeing everything put together, and it was worth the amount of time that I took to do everything. So now here I'm just again gluing on the little rolling pin, which I think is just too gorgeous. It really is. Now the bow that I made, which I will show you now, I made a bow maker on my 3D printer, and it's so handy. You literally just slide in your ribbon and you can have as many layers as you want, and the tie of it goes underneath, and you just pull the tie through and put on whatever little centerpiece you want, or you don't even have to have a centerpiece. You can actually use a piece of ribbon for the centerpiece. So I was quite happy with my little bow maker that I'd made. And sorry, I am out of view there, but you will be able to see now my little bow that I made. It's got a few layers to it, and I thought it came out really cute. So all in all, I think that tray looks absolutely gorgeous. So there it is. Let me know what you think of my tray. And thanks so much for watching. I hope you loved this festive little gingerbread cookie tray as much as I did making it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can craft along with me through the whole of the Christmas season. So guys, again, until next time, happy crafting and have a great one.